Well, another day and another Carney video surfacing of him doing shady things. What else is new? This man's campaign is going down in flames. Yes, he may win leadership of the Liberal Party. And you know what? At this point, I'm praying he wins leadership of the Liberal Party because he's the accident waiting to happen. He keeps screwing up, or past videos are surfacing of him just being blatantly sketchy. And here I am bringing slang into my show for the first minute. I guess can't always hit home runs. But this is what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about Carney and a video that surfaced today. And if you're following us on X, then you know exactly what I'm referring to. But then two, we have Justin Trudeau tearing up, crying on live television again about leaving his post and talking about what his conversation was like from his end with Donald Trump yesterday. And then Donald Trump saying, hey, Mexico, tariffs are off the board for another month for you guys. Canada, at this point, we don't know. It could be coming later today or it could be coming tomorrow, but there's really no inkling that this is going to happen for Canada as well. And as I promised yesterday, Sam Cooper said he's going to get details of how complex the triads, cartels, United Front, China, Mexico are working together. These organized crime groups are working together across these different countries to facilitate the moving of fentanyl within the West. And this is the issue that Trump has. It's because Trudeau goes out and puts out a bunch of bogus stats and doesn't actually address the issue at hand. So that's the problem. That's the issue. And the reality is Trump just hates Trudeau. And that relationship is officially fractured. It's over. Trudeau's on his way out. Bye-bye. It's done. I'm not anticipating any type of levity from the tariffs coming for Canada because, well, our representative absolutely sucks. So we move on here. Mark Carney on stage talking about public policy, talking about his work for Brookfield. And he says the quiet part out loud again. Again, here we go.
I do spend some time advising on what, again, pro bono, but advising on the types of policies that are going to have maximum impacts for investors. So I'll give you an example, which is one of the issues. It's not the biggest issue. It's like 2% of global emissions. You wouldn't know it from the headlines, but 2% of global emissions is for air travel, emissions from air travel. Now, so the question is, are we going to have green, sustainable aviation fuel? What's happened in the UK, the EU, is they've said to major airlines, look, if you're flying in and out of Heathrow or wherever, you have to have 10% of your load has to be sustainable aviation fuel by, I think it's 2030. Consequence of that policy has been to convert some entrepreneurs in Texas, in this case, a company called Infineon, to become economic. Because all of a sudden, American Airlines, British Airways, need to buy that fuel. They'll pay a green premium. You've got an offtake, that's high credit quality. And so in that case, we Brookfield put $1 billion to work there. And, it's a fantastic opportunity. The point being, without the policy, the policy has to drive it and drive things down. So yeah, I'm dodging your question.
I know, I know you're dodging.
And look at the time.
I look at the time.
Look at that politician out there dodging questions. Good job, Mark Carney. You are slowly growing. You've only improved since this interview happened. But anyways, yes, Mark Carney says investment and change in the world needs to be driven by public policy, and we at Brookfield have capitalized on those things. And this should be of concern. It's one thing to be the Bank of Canada governor, the governor of the Bank of England. It's a whole other when you are the prime minister who is able to drive policy into specific industries that may benefit the companies that you have a share in. I'll just leave it at that. And this, he openly brags about it. He's like, yep. This policy came down and we made sure at Brookfield to take advantage of it, and we invested and made sure that we made money off it because I act in the interest of the shareholders. But don't worry, folks. You can be concerned about this, and quite frankly, it is very concerning. But don't worry, because today, the Carney campaign said that he's going to vow to put his financial assets into a blind trust if he becomes prime minister. His campaign said this. If Mark Carney has the privilege of becoming prime minister, he would not merely comply with all applicable ethics rules and guidelines, but surpass them, said the statement. The Office of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner has already been contacted ahead of time to help ensure all appropriate steps can be initiated right away and assets would be immediately placed in a blind trust. Liberals will elect their new leader on Sunday, and whomever they select is likely to become prime minister soon after. If Carney is successful, He would have up to 60 days to disclose his assets to the ethics commissioner and another 60 days to finalize the disclosure before it goes public. All public office holders, which includes MPs, cabinet ministers, and members of federal boards, are required to disclose their assets through the Conflict of Interest Commissioner. In an open letter sent last month, Conservative MP Michelle Rempel-Garner called on Carney to disclose his assets even if the rules didn't apply to him. And then kind of one last piece here. Carney has already been attacked by the Conservatives for his work with Brookfield Asset Management because the company decided last year to move its headquarters from Toronto to New York. According to the company's latest filings on executive compensation, Carney controlled over 41,000 shares of his company as of the end of 2023. Those shares would be worth $3.2 million based on the company's closing share price on Wednesday of $79.24. Carney has also had options on another 303,000 shares that he could purchase for between $31.46 per share and $41.24 per share. If he purchased all of those shares, they would be worth nearly $24 million. Those options expire between 2031 and 2033. And they go on to share how Nikki Ashton criticized Carney for the exact same issues with Brookfield shady business practices. This is what we're getting. He wants to make sure, and wants to assure Canadians, it's going to be all good. I'm going to put everything into a blind trust. And so how does a blind trust work? Well, essentially it's an arm's length situation where whoever is overseeing your investments can make moves, can handle your investments without your knowledge. So that's what the blind trust aspect of it is. The thing is, the person who's acting on his behalf also has to have Carney's interests at play here. They can't just go do things. They have to, make sure it's in the best interest of the account holder. And so this is the issue of the blind trust. Yeah, we're going to put it all in blind trust. Everything's going to be all good. I'm not going to touch any of the money. Great. I'm grateful that you're not going to touch the money. However, in that previous video, you talked about how public policy is driving investments. So what assurances can you give Canadians that you're not going to push policies like you have in the past that are going to directly impact and benefit your holdings and your investments that are in that blind trust that you don't know what's in there now? What keeps you from doing that? Are you going to sell off all your Brookfield shares? No, I doubt that you're going to do that. So how can we be sure that you're going to be acting in the best interest of Canadians and not in the best interest of your pocketbook and the shareholders at your old companies? How can we be sure? That is the question most Canadians have right now. We want to know. I'm going to shift gears a little bit because with Carney coming in, we have Justin Trudeau saying his farewells and crying a little bit. But he discusses his perspective of what happened on that call with Donald Trump yesterday.
If you can describe the tone, the tenor, the scope. I understand some profanity emerged in that call. Maybe you can explain the context in which that happened. Can you give us some color on that phone?
I can confirm that it was a colorful call. And it was also a very substantive call. We talked about a range of issues, of course, primarily the trade war that they have chosen to unjustly launch on Canada. But there is also a recognition that our two countries are deeply interwoven, not just in our economy, but in our people-to-people ties and our history. And we should be able to continue to do big things together as we have over many years in the past, first and foremost by negotiating and signing an extraordinarily successful USMCA-CUSMA deal. But that there's more to do, and we committed to continue to work together constructively.
There was some profanity laced in the conversation. It didn't go very well. And because the issue is Trudeau keeps citing these numbers, the 97% number of what was seized in January versus what was seized in December, or the 1% number that gets floated around a lot. They go, oh, only 1% of fentanyl comes from Canada and the United States, which we know is false because they only report what they catch. And when you have one of the largest land borders in the world, things are going to get through. And then also the fact that we just don't have any coverage at any of the ports that these precursors are coming into. But again, I digress. This is the frustration that Donald Trump is feeling, and this is something that is detailed in Sam Cooper's report from today, is that it is a multifaceted issue. And all Trudeau is trying to do is find these cheap political wins and point to, look, we're doing something, and not dealing with the core issue of itself, which is addressing and carving out pieces of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms to make sure it doesn't apply to people who are actively breaking the law in this country and facilitating drugs and money laundering that are hurting Canadians. That's one thing. The other thing is making sure we have a federal presence at our ports is another. Another is making sure you give teeth to the likes of FinTrack, the RCMP, to be able to track down the people who are laundering money in our system that we have not addressed whatsoever. And this is the issue that we're starting to see the frustration. Is Trudeau, throughout his whole time as prime minister, he's always been about cheap wins, talking about putting the most amount of money into projects that don't really ever get done or get half done or a quarter done. But it's the biggest project ever because we put a big sticker price on it. And people are seeing through that. And Donald Trump is definitely seeing through it. And I think this is where we're starting to see the tension. And based on Sam Cooper's report, it is likely where a lot of the tension lies. Sure, there's some economic incentive too in these deals, but right now we are not taking it seriously up here. And Donald Trump knows it. His administration knows it. U.S. intelligence knows it. And we're going to get into all of it. And I really tried to get it all into it in this episode. I don't think I'm going to be able to because it'll be too long of an episode. But I promise it'll be my next episode and I will release all the details, the breakdown of Sam Cooper's report. I promise it'll be the next one I post. And because it's a pretty lengthy article and it needs the time and space to look at all of it in terms of the multifaceted approach that these cartels, triads, United Front are using to move product around. But with that, join myself and Reg tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Atlantic, as we have a whole 2-hour live stream planned going through all your questions and issues that are happening, whether it be the municipal level, provincial, federal, and we'll be talking about all of it that we aren't able to get into like these short form YouTube shows, but be able to address some of the things that are happening around the country. But anyways, have yourselves a good one. I'm out.